Welcome and good morning from Delhi. Our word to share is a shared experience involving the United Churches in Delhi and Harrow. We also want
the land acknowledgement. Long before settlers and colonizers arrived on these lands, the places we call Delhi and Harrow had other names in other languages. There were people here who knew and cherished the land, the waters, the forests, the plants, the animals, and the good, clean air. We acknowledge the faithful stewardship of the indigenous peoples of Turtle Island. May we learn to live in right relations with the land, the waters, the wildlife, and people who have cared for the land, air, and waters for thousands of years.
morning from Delhi. We see the days getting shorter as we move towards a new season. We rely on those who know the way, and we follow the best we can. We light the Christ candles in Delhi and Harrow, and we are grateful for God's light.
The ringing of the prayer bowl marks the beginning and end of time to quiet down and open ourselves, body, mind, and spirit, to God's presence with us here and now, always and everywhere.
Thanks for coming up. You're just in time for practice. You're just in time for practicing. This is time for the rehearsal. You know what we're gonna practice? We're gonna practice shaking hands and saying, "Welcome to the church." Okay? Pretend like I'm brand new. I'm a brand new member of Harrow United Church, and shake my hand and say, "Welcome."
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Good job. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. You all did a good job. So remember what we did, because we're going to be doing that again in just a moment. Because we are going to welcome somebody to the church this morning, which is very exciting, welcoming her by transfer. So Jillian, can you come up too? Bring your applesauce, yeah.
Was I going to give her applesauce?
Do you want to go to the microphone? And do you have your words?
No.
Well, your words are right
I remembered
here.
it.
I'd like to present Marilyn Rogers, whom we welcome into the membership of this community of faith.
Okay, so then we need Marilyn. Well, come on up, Marilyn. You don't have to. So Marilyn, when's the last time when you were brand new at anything? But you are going to be the newest member of Harrow United Church, which is pretty exciting. But first we got to make sure that you're the right person. You bring everything to it that you need. So I have a serious question.
I have got my name tag on.
No name tags, but we know who you are. We're good. So Marilyn, will you join with us as together we celebrate God's presence, live with respect in creation, love and serve others, seek justice, and resist evil?
I will, God being my helper.
That was the right answer, so she's in. So everyone else, if you're able to, can you please stand? And I think there should be words appearing on the screen that we're going to say out loud together. These are the words we'll use to pledge to Marilyn our support and our care. There they are. As your brothers and sisters in Christ, we rejoice in the gifts you bring to us. We pledge to you our love and our support. With God's help, we'll together live out the mission and ministry of Christ's church. Good job. Well, you all can sit down, and then you don't sit down, because now you have to do the part we practiced. You get to welcome Marilyn. Good job. I guess you guys can stay here because you'll be up here for the next thing. But Marilyn, if you want to go sit down, that's okay.
Well, I think she should stay and do praise music.
Well, do you want to do that? Well, but first, with the folks from Delhi and Harrow together, we're gonna read the new creed. It's our shared profession of faith. We are not alone. We live in God's world. We believe in God, who has created and is creating, who has come in Jesus, the Word made flesh, to reconcile and make new, who works in us and others by the Spirit. Trusting God, we are called to be the church, to celebrate God's presence, to live with respect in creation, to love and serve others, to seek justice and resist evil, to proclaim Jesus, crucified and risen, our judge and our hope, in life, in death, in life beyond death. God is with us. We are not alone. Thanks be to God. And now it's time for all the youngest, newest members of the church to lead us in praise time. Here's the message.
You need to stay too. Okay. Everybody can get some instruments. Help yourself, guys. Just give me a sec, Larry. So an appropriate song that Darrow picked out today is I Am the Church. But as Dennis Graham is known to do, he has done some research, and this is why I want you here too.
Oh, okay.
So he puts our services online, and this particular version of I Am the Church has been from 12 years ago. And you and I,
That's why you want me up here.
you and I are in it. There might
Oh,
be
how we've changed, Larry.
well, maybe. Anyways, so the version that he's going to show you today of I Am the Church and the words and whatnot is from 12 years ago, but we should still all participate in it, okay? Alrighty, Larry.
Our
You
next
can
one
have two.
is one that I know everyone is familiar with. We are the church, you are the church.
See?
Jesus, our
I guess he wasn't. He told me he was going to put that picture up there so you could see what we looked like 12 years ago, but I guess he changed his mind. Might have been too scary.
Good, yeah.
Life is a gift, and the world is amazing. There is love and wonder and hope, even in hard times. There are relationships that help us grow. We are deeply grateful. We share from all that we have, so others can hear the good news about the difference God can make in our lives. We make our offerings in that spirit and to support the work of our churches. God, you bless us and provide what we really need. We might wish for more, but most of us have just about enough. We are blessed to be able to share what we have for the good of others. We give thanks and ask you to accept the offerings we make as followers of the way of Jesus. Amen. Our scripture reading this morning is from Matthew chapter 20, verses 1 to 16. For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire workers for his vineyard. He agreed to pay them a denarius for the day and sent them into the vineyard. About 9 in the morning he went out and saw others standing in the marketplace doing nothing. He told them, "You also go out and work in the vineyard, and I will pay you whatever is right." So they went. He went out again about noon and about 3 in the afternoon and did the same thing. About 5 in the afternoon, he went out and found still others standing around. He asked them, "Why have you been standing here all day long doing nothing?" "Because no one has hired us," they answered. He said to them, "You also go and work in my vineyard." When evening came, the owner of the vineyard came to his foreman. "Call the workers and pay them their wages, beginning with the last ones hired and going to the first." The workers who were hired about 5 in the afternoon came and each received a denarius. So when those came who were first hired, they expected to receive more, but each one of them received a denarius. When they received it, they began to grumble against the landowner. These who were hired last worked only 1 hour, they said, and you have made them equal to us who have borne the burden of the work and the heat of the day. But he answered one of them, "I am not being unfair to you, friend. Didn't you agree to work for a denarius? Take your pay and go. I want to give the one who was hired last the same as I gave you. Don't I have the right to do what I want with my own money? Or are you envious because I am generous? So the last will be first, and the first will be last."
For
morning, Larry. How wonderful it is to hear the organ again. Larry, you need to know this, that when you're not here, we miss you. And we're always glad to see you. Am I right? Patty, we'd miss you too if you weren't here. And we're deeply appreciative of you being here and helping more when Larry's not here. But when Larry comes back, we want to make a fuss. Yeah. Way back in my mid-20s, I won't say how many years ago that was, I took a break from my training to become a minister, and I worked on a farm in the southern United States called Koinonia. It's in Sumter County, Georgia. While I was there in the mid-'80s, Koinonia had a small vineyard, and the farm supervisor hired local workers, mostly neighbors from nearby homes around us, to help pick the grapes. And as a volunteer, I was trying to earn my keep the best I could, so when it was time to pick grapes, I picked grapes. The work was hard and had to begin early in the day to get as much picking done before the real heat and humidity set in. But there was another reason to begin early in the day. Because as the day warmed up, and it did, there was a greater possibility that twined in among the vines there might be a snake. They liked to wrap themselves around the cross beams of the vine stands and sun themselves. The local folks were leery of snakes, and with good reason. In Sumter County, there are several varieties of venomous rattlesnakes. The bite might not kill you, but from what I heard, it hurt like crazy. And most of the folks there did not have health insurance. So an unwanted trip to the emergency ward would be expensive, as well as inconvenient. And around our farm, there were lots of single-dwelling homes in little clusters. And all these houses around the farm, well-kept homes, had no grass in their yards. They grew nothing around the perimeter of their homes. They would rake that rich red soil and make sure they pulled all the weeds, always trying to keep the space around their houses bare of any vegetation. Why do you think? Because they worried about the snakes in the grass. Exactly, literally. When I was at Koinonia, the farm supervisor was a retired Baptist preacher from Erie, Pennsylvania, named Ray Rockwell. Ray was an ornery, crotchety old guy. He was in his mid-70s when I knew him, and back then that seemed really old. Now it doesn't seem so old. Ray, being a Baptist preacher, knew a lot of folks, and he introduced me to another old guy who wasn't ornery at all, a peanut farmer and former president from Plains, Georgia, just 10 miles away. But that's a whole other story. Back to grape picking. On those early grape picking mornings, Ray patrolled the rows of the vineyard with a sharpened hoe, which he wasn't afraid to use. Now, Ray was a pacifist. He wouldn't use the farm shotgun, but he had that sharpened hoe, and he could take out a snake with that hoe like nobody's business. Jesus told this parable about a vineyard to people who were well aware of the trials and hazards of life. Most of the folks who would have heard Jesus tell his stories were day laborers. And they'd get up each morning and set out, go to the town square, waiting for someone to hire them, looking for a day's work, hoping on that day to earn enough to buy the food to feed their family. And those folks had more dangerous things to worry about than snakes in the grass. Under the Roman rule of Palestine, most agricultural land in the whole country was controlled by a small number of families, a wealthy class. There was a huge population of landless peasants. Many families ended up renting back land that used to be theirs, tending land that had been theirs, which they'd lost. A lot of them lost it to taxes because the Romans kept piling on more and more taxes, and then they couldn't keep up. The Roman appointed tax collectors, with the help of the local government and with the enforcement of Roman soldiers, would seize the farms in lieu of the unpaid rising taxes, and then that land would be turned over to the nearest wealthy family to manage, and they often would rent it back to the same family who'd had it. And this system worked well for Rome because it made sure that the emperor got his share. It was a big cut. Day laborers, former landowners, most of them, were at the bottom of the economic and social ladder. And like I said, they'd live on these plots of rented land, but they couldn't raise enough on that land to feed their family and pay the rent and pay the taxes. So they had to go out each day and look for other work to supplement their income. They'd get up with the sun or before the sun, seeking a day's work. And at the end of the day, if they'd been fortunate to find work, they would be paid 1 denarius. So the folks listening to Jesus tell this story about the vineyard and the laborers, this would all be really familiar to them. They'd be listening close, and they would recognize details that resonated with their own lives. And just when Jesus had drawn them in, sucked them into this story, which seemed to be pretty familiar to them, he surprised them with twists to the tale that would shock them. And the whole point was to get them wondering, what the heck is he talking about? What world is he talking about? Now, parables in the Bible and in lots of religious traditions, they're not simple stories meant to carry a particular moral, clear message. Parables, when they're crafted well, they're meant to make us think, make us go, what the heck is that all about? And if they're really good, they so mess with us that they turn our way of seeing the world, flip it upside down. So Jesus talked about this landowner who goes out several times during the day to recruit more workers. And these would be workers who hadn't found work at the crack of dawn, hadn't found work at 9 o'clock, hadn't found work at noon or 3 in the afternoon. They stayed in the town courtyard waiting, hoping somebody might hire them, hoping against hope they might earn their denarius, their single coin that would be enough to feed their family for the day. Some of them are still out there at 5 o'clock, hoping somebody might come by, not knowing how well they'd get paid, but hoping somebody might come by and hire them so they could do a little bit of work that day. And maybe they could ingratiate themselves to the landowner and maybe get hired the next day. The end of the long day, all these workers on the farm, in the vineyard, hearing that the day's work was over would be a welcome relief to those who'd been there since sunrise, who'd been there the whole day working under the hot sun. They'd be excited about that because the day's work was done. Would they be as excited when they started to see what was going on? That the landowner told his farm manager to pay every single worker the same amount of money, the same denarius. Be honest, how would you feel about that? Didn't sit well with these workers who'd been there since the crack of dawn, working hard all day, watching as each new wave of workers arrive, saying, I've been here 5 hours longer than them, 6 hours longer than them, 8 hours longer than them. So sort of naturally, the earliest crew that went to work felt entitled to more, even though what the landowner was paying was a living wage. What he was paying was a fair wage for each worker. How would you feel if you had been one of the first to be hired and you watched all these new hires not only getting the same amount you were going to get, but getting it before you did? Because the last ones hired were paid first, and the first ones hired are waiting around, waiting for their coin. How would it feel to be one of the last ones hired when you figured it out? Hey, he's paying me for a whole day's work. I've been here an hour, maybe 2. And I'm getting the same amount of pay as those ones who are still waiting in line. On the surface, this is a nonsense story. It literally defies our ideas of logic and fairness and justice, which in itself should tell us Jesus is up to something here. He's playing trickster. He's pushing us to look at the world in a way that's new to us, or a way that we're not used to thinking. Now, there's no doubt in my mind that this parable is also a thinly veiled critique of the system of domination imposed under Roman rule, which was rigged to protect the very rich at the expense of the very poorest. But beyond that, beyond it being a social critique, a political analysis of the situation, Jesus' parable, what he was teaching, offers a challenge to look at the whole world in a different way. He's showing us a different version of reality. There's a world that we're used to in which you only get what you're owed. You get what you're due, hopefully, or what somebody else decides you deserve. In that same world, and I know this about myself, and it might be true of some of you here too, even if I get all that I need for the day, even if I get all that I rightly deserve for the day, there's a part of me that would like more. Does anyone turn it back when you get paid extra? Anyone say, oh, no. There's a part of us that wants all we can get. Or am I the only one? It's okay to admit it. Who would like to have more than they deserve? Tentative hands going up, yeah. I mean, that's the world we live in. That's the world we're conditioned, because so much of our sense of value, our sense of purpose, our sense of identity has become attached to what can we get and what can we do with what we got. So it's a more world. So of course, we hear this story and we think they should get more. They worked harder. They should get more than those folks over there. So that's the world we're in. And then Jesus paints this picture with this story of the world as God dreams it could be, in which this generous employer makes sure that every worker goes home with enough. Everyone who went to that farm that day, whether they worked 12 hours, 8 hours, 6 hours, 2 hours, 15 minutes, everyone who went to work for that farmer that day could go home with enough to feed their family. Remember that line? We'll hear it later in the Lord's Prayer. Give us this day our daily bread. That literally means, God, can I just have enough for today? Can I have enough to get through the day? This is what I need to be on my plate, on my family's plates, to feed us for today. That's all I'm asking. Do we live that way? Do we live in the world where that's all we expect is enough for today? Not up here, I don't think, because we all make plans and we all make sure our savings are in order, and credit cards are paid, and what can we afford next month, and is the pension plan in place, and how are my investments doing, and all that stuff. That's what we do up here. But on a deeper level, in our heart, in our gut, that's exactly how we live. Am I going to get through today? Now, we might, hopefully we all go to bed tonight with the comforting knowledge that there's something in the pantry for breakfast. We've got food in the house. We might even have plans to meet somebody for lunch tomorrow, so we know there'll be food after breakfast too. But the truth, this is the truth that we know in our guts, in our hearts, that even if our pantry's full, even if we've got plans to go out for lunch and our credit card can handle it, we might not even live to make it to lunch. Right? Anything can happen. And someday it will. So really, on a gut level, all we got is today. Give us this day our daily bread. The deep truth in that prayer is that's all we actually can expect. It's all we actually need is enough for today, because that's where we live. Our head doesn't like that. Our head likes to make plans, but our heart knows this. Our heart knows that what we got is today. None of us knows what might happen to us. All of our lives, every one of us, our lives are totally out of control. At least they're out of our control. So how is it that we become convinced that we're in charge of anything? Well, I guess if we didn't have that illusion that we're actually in charge of ourselves and running our own lives and business, we couldn't function. So we need our heads to keep telling us what to do and make plans for tomorrow. But we can't take our heads totally seriously. We've got to remember what the heart already knows. Is that no matter what we plan for tomorrow, we better live today. And we better live well today. Because everything we need, everything we are, everything that's possible in this life, we don't own. Everything, including our very lives, are on loan to us. Only have it for a while, and we don't know when we might have to pay it back. And I think that's one of the deeper challenges, the world-twisting, turn everything upside down message in Jesus' parable, that we're not in charge. It's not up to us. We don't really own anything. We depend every day, every minute, every second, we depend on the generous provision of God. Most of us don't like thinking about that. We resist this truth. Probably in the same way that some of those vineyard workers still wanted more than they needed. We want more. We want to hang on. We want to keep everything. That human greed, that human desire for more, is totally rooted in our fear of death. We convince ourselves that the way we can make sure we'll have tomorrow is to pile up extra right now. It's an illusion. It's an illusion that keeps societies moving because we keep working hard, but it's an illusion. And it's the snake in the grass. in this story. The vineyard owner in Jesus' story wasn't like my friend Ray, who had this really honed, sharpened hoe that he used to strike down the snake when he saw it. The vineyard owner had something even more powerful than a sharpened hoe or a shotgun. What he used was open-hearted generosity.
He rejected the worldly way that would have us wrap ourselves in the false security of having more than we need and more than those around us. We call it getting ahead. Who do we need to be ahead of? We want the illusion of security, but in our hearts, we know that having more, hoarding more, gathering it up so that we have more than our neighbors, does not actually give us power over life and death. We are still fragile, mortal, dependent, and captive of our own fear. Jesus told parables to shake us up, to disturb us enough to look at life in a new way, and to embrace the freedom he offers to all of us, to live without fear. In this parable, the person who is the most free is the landowner. We might argue that's because he's rich, but it's not the wealth that makes him free, but what he does with it. It's his unconditional, apparently reckless generosity. We do our best to follow Jesus with his twisty, tricky stories and with how he lived. Jesus leads us away from the way the world is, to take small steps towards God's vision of how the world could be. Jesus leads us away from greed and desperation and fear and the illusion of security. Jesus leads us towards spiritual freedom. Amen.
Informed there for which dates it is for sure, okay? Remember, Cottam United is having their turkey dinner on the 28th. You can support them by ordering a dinner. And Harrow Mennonite Church is having their annual pie making sales. For unbaked apple pies, you can call them and place your order ahead of time for pickup on the 30th. Liz, you had an announcement, and then I'll come back to other things.
So just an update on the Goodfellows baskets. We have collected so far 60 boxes of stuffing and 41 cans of cranberry sauce, so we're well on our way. Some people are putting cash donations in, which is great. I'll take that cash and buy what we need with that. The date is September 15th when everything needs to be in. All the food collected for these Christmas food boxes stays in Harrow. It is for the local Harrow food bank. Some people were wondering if it goes to Windsor, but it stays here. It's all local. So again, there's a bin outside. Some people are utilizing that, which is great. I check it a couple of times a week. But again, thank you for your donation.
A couple things that didn't make it into the bulletin is this afternoon, the Essex County area has what is called Wild Church. And it's people that like to commune with nature and find it a very nice sanctuary to be at. They have it in different locations each month. It's usually about the third Sunday. This afternoon at 4 p.m., they are having it at Lakeside Park down at the pavilion there. Southwestern Ontario Gleaners, is everybody familiar with them? They work out of Leamington, and they do a lot of, take in a lot of produce and make it usable. They dehydrate it and provide meals all through Canada, North America, third world countries. They are having an open house 9 to noon next Saturday, the 23rd. Anybody can drop in and see what it's about and maybe decide if they want to also volunteer and help them out. The toonie auction is coming up quickly. If you are planning to do a basket, please advise us or fill out one of these sheets. I have these little sheets downstairs saying what it is or a theme that you're planning to do so that we have an idea ahead. Often we've been receiving baskets kind of the day of, and then we're having to revamp our whole list and that. So if you can let us know the latest Wednesday this week, that would be fabulous. We are also taking, if you don't want to do a basket, if you want to do a cash donation, you can give it to us and we'll put your name. You'll get tax receipts for it. And you can do them on e-transfer. If you do it through e-transfer, put in it that is for the Toonie auction. And then we will go out, use that money to buy the baskets and compile what we need. Okay? I think that's that for that one. I'm getting through my list. It's wonderful to see so many new friends and faces out there. I want to ask that if you would take a few minutes and ask me for one of these yellow sheets, just to put your information on it, your name, your address, your phone number, so that I can have it in our database. I've had somebody say that they'd like to be a reader. That's fabulous. I just don't know how to contact you. So if I can get this information and have it on our sheets, that would be great. You don't have to do the whole sheet. It's kind of out of date, but maybe the first 2/3 of the front page would be great. All right. Mm-hmm. If you have those. Yep, they can give them to me or yeah, put them on the plate even. When we see that yellow sheet, they'll know that I need the information. That's great. My final thing. Every year, we do a mitten tree. And we have it set up downstairs, usually probably within the next week or so. Last year, we had lots of hats, lots of scarves, lots of socks, and maybe only 2 or 3 pairs of mittens. So I got looking in my little craft room and I went, man, am I overdoing it with all the yarn here? I got to put it to use. So I said, I'm going to make either a hat or some scarves or a pair of mittens every week. Well, I got to 31. Most of them I have finished. Well, not most of them, sorry. A few of them. Most of them look like this. And if you ever asked my mom, she said I was great for doing projects and never finishing them. So she would do my finishing. I'm looking for a surrogate mom that can help me with my basket, my unfinished projects. So if anyone is out there willing to help with that, then we will actually have mittens to put on the mitten tree. Thank you. Hit it, Larry. Oh, sorry.
I don't sit in the front row. Did you announce the concert?
No, I didn't.
In a couple of weeks, the County Classic Chorale will be in concert here on December 1st at 3 p.m. And our first concerts are next Saturday and next Sunday night at Faith Mennonite Church. So if you can't make it to the one on the 1st, you can come and see us in Leamington. So there's several people from our congregation that sing in that. But the reason I'm here is that last Wednesday night, Leslie and Doug brought in 12 lugs of apples, and we peeled and chopped every one of them. And we made 149 pie fillings for the Harrow Fair pie tent, and these are for apple pies. I need about 200, so this Wednesday night, 7 more lugs are going to arrive. The only problem is some of our peelers and choppers aren't going to be here, so we're going to need some others. Otherwise, we're going to be here all night. So could you please come? And Wendy wants to be able to go home at 8 o'clock, after she bags her 50 pies and says, I'm done. And then we're going to bag some more apples so that we have apples in store so that we can then create more pies. And the third thing, last Monday, a little pie team came in and they turned bags of elderberries into 14 elderberry pies. 11 of them are spoken for, so there's only 3 left. And Carol was saying, and there was somebody from Essex that was interested in one, and she couldn't remember who. So there are 3 down there. If you want to see me, I will gladly provide it so that you can make a good home. So we do need some apple peelers and apple choppers for Wednesday night. So at 6 o'clock is when we start, and hopefully we're done by 8. Anyway, thank you very much. It's all yours, Larry.